This is the Extra Credit ITGS podcast, episode 0, the inaugural episode. My name is Victor. The Extra Credit ITGS podcast is a show that covers current tech news and trends and explores them through the lens of ITGS. Today we're going to be talking about a story from PC Magazine. Luggage Tag Code Unlocks Your Flight's Identity to Hackers. And we'll be taking a look at the IT system, and of course we'll discuss the impacts. So let's dive in here really quickly. This is the story from PC Magazine, and it basically describes a system that's used to keep track of travelers internationally, travelers flying from one airport to another. Now, every time you buy an airline ticket, usually you do it through the airline's website or through a travel agency or through a travel site. Very seldom now do you actually get a ticket. You get something like an electronic ticket. And that electronic ticket, something like this, it could be you get it through the email or you get a printout if you go to the travel agency. But basically what you get is a record on a database. A record is created for you as a traveler in a database, and it is identified, like the primary key that is used is a booking reference, sometimes called, or it's also sometimes called a PNR, passenger name record locator. So that's more or less what happens. And this PNR is the primary key of the record that holds all the information related to your travel arrangement. So it's a 6-character alphanumerical code, usually all capitals. So it's a very simple code. And this code is printed in different places. So it's printed on your itinerary. It's printed on your voucher or your boarding pass. Let me find a boarding pass here. So this is a boarding pass, and you have the PNR locator here, right? You can, well, let's see, do I have another one? Well, this one might be blurred out, of course, for security purposes. Here's another one. Here, you can see it on top here, above the seat request stamp. There's the PNR code, and it's also printed up in your luggage tags that are attached to your luggage as it travels. So the problem with this is that this PNR gives you access to information associated or information in that record. It's your name, of course, address, credit card number if you paid with a credit card, destination, itinerary. So there's a lot of information associated, and we have a sort of like a printout here of what kind of information is given. So you have address, phone numbers, email address, frequent flyer number, credit card number, even the IP address and the time that the ticket was purchased from, right? And it's very easy to access this record because this database is actually a central global distributed system. So it's there are 3 or 4, well, there's a few companies, but 3 companies actually handle 90% of all travel arrangements. And they all share the database. It's a distributed database. So even though I might be booking through Delta, for example, they send the record to the central database so that it is accessible via other airlines or via also for travel agencies, also airports, things like that, customs offices, etc. So the database is accessible from many different places, and all you need to access the information is typically, and I have, for example, this is from an airline, Go Air, which is a second tier airline, let's say, and they actually have. They actually only require a surname and a PNR to give you access to the record with all of that information that I showed you over here. So what's going on, right? This happens because this system was built in the 70s and 80s, and it has been adapted over the years to accommodate new technologies and the internet and new ways of buying, purchasing tickets and whatnot. But it has never been overhauled. It has never been modernized. It's been adapted, right? Because of that, the database is very insecure. So much so, like I said, that a hacker or somebody who snaps a picture of your boarding pass or your luggage tag could have access to all that information. So that is the issue. That is kind of like the system. And of course, it raises the issue of security, and it raises the issue of privacy, right? Now, before we get into that, we do have to acknowledge the fact that the system is, first of all, it's very reliable. I mean, it's used every day, is used by millions of people traveling every day, and it allows them to do this without a hitch, right? And mostly without a hitch. So you can buy your tickets from a travel agency, and the airline will have access to the record of your purchase, and any other customs or any airport will be able to see that record to facilitate your travel. And of course, if your luggage gets lost, the airline that has the luggage, that is handling the luggage, has access to the information to route it where it needs to go and let you know where it is and whatnot. So it works. It is reliable because it is simple to use, right? There's no delay. It's very easy to access, and that can be a good thing. It can facilitate travel. And when you have millions of people traveling every day, you need something that works fast. The idea of having a centralized database also guarantees data integrity, because there's no duplicate records, there's no danger of having information change when it's transferred from one database to another, for instance, in the case that there were two databases. So that's a good thing, right? It's very positive. It actually makes the whole travel industry work reliably. So you have to say that. But let's get back to the issues now. How could you exploit something like this? Well, basically you could, or a hacker could, gain access to the PNR code and your last name in this case. Come over to this website and type in, last name and PNR. Get a record of. They could take your credit card. They could take your frequent flyer miles. Something that could be done, for example, if the website allows it, or if they have access to a terminal, for example, in a travel agency, they could cancel the flight. So they could cancel your flight and get reimbursed with a voucher, for example, to flight in another time. Right, and they could actually, if they're good enough, they could make changes in the record to change destination, to change the the name of the person who is, or the identification of the person who's flying, etc. So those are very serious impacts. So if the PNR locator is, that little number is intercepted, all of that could happen. Also, a valid PNR is not very difficult to guess because it's only 6 digits and it's alphanumerical, capitals only, right? So there's a limited number of combinations, and most of these websites, kind of like this one, Go Air, they don't restrict the number of times you can try to access a booking record. So I could have a bot kind of like hit the website and try different PNRs until I hit a valid one, for example. So that's an issue, right? Another impact is that, for instance, a person could know your itinerary. And they know that you're on vacation, they know how long you're going to be on vacation, where you're going to be traveling to, and do something while you're away, for example, because they have your address, they have your email, etc. So there could be some phishing attacks while you're away, for instance. So what's the possible solution? Really, it's there's a few things that the article addresses over here. First, better security. That's kind of like the idea, right? You need better security. The article recommends that online services limit the access to travel records per IP address, so that you cannot hit the website with a bot, right, and just try different PNR codes, or use CAPTCHAs, right, to make sure that it's a person trying to access the record and not a robot, right? So that can help stop brute force attacks, as it says in the article. But really, what the real solution is an overhaul of the legacy system, right? So you need to discard the legacy system and substitute it with a new one. That, of course, is a lot more complicated because it is such a large system. It is being used already. It is already being used around the world. So, and it's used every day. And you cannot paralyze travel to kind of like do a system switchover, for instance. So it has to be on the go. That's exactly why this hasn't happened. I mean, the system has been adapted over the years, and it has never stopped working. But this is the issue. So overhauling it and making sure that ID, that thing that identifies the record, and that database has better security and has more security identification methods, right, is important. It's going to take longer, though, but there is an initiative. There's already an initiative for an advanced airline identification system, which is a step in that direction. All right. But anyway, this is something to look out for. The article also has a video that shows the issue and how it is exploited. And you can see the people that exposed actually this vulnerability in the first place, how they did it, and what they propose. So that it's a really interesting article, I think. If you have ever traveled, it's something to pay attention to, and it's one example at least of how the widespread use of IT without actual knowledge of how it works can have serious impacts, right? So that's it. You can find a link to the original article in the description of the video. If you want to know more, please feel free to comment and ask questions if you're watching on YouTube. What do you think about this issue? Has anything weird ever happened to you while you traveled because of this issue? What are some other possible solutions to the problem? So thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode of the Extra Credit ITGS podcast. Have a nice day.